between India and China, relations have come a step further from the point, like Vishnu was mentioning, when in the address earlier, Rajnath Singh did not sign on it because there was no mention made of Pahalgam at all. But yesterday, when the bilateral happened between Modi and Xi, and this is what Vikram Misri said later in the briefing. He said that it was made very clear that action against terrorism should be a prerequisite for future relationship between the two countries. Peace at the border, the Prime Minister is believed to have conveyed to Xi Jinping, has to happen. If India and China can coexist peacefully, there has to be peace at the border, there has to be joint action against cross-border terrorism, and all issues of terrorism must be addressed. So India at least has made that absolutely clear, Shiv.
Made it absolutely clear, has not prevaricated or diverted on its stand on Taiwan at all, re-emphasized it, gotten a word in as far as the border is concerned, gotten a word in as far as terror is concerned, which is especially important, Vishnu, since what happened with Rajnath Singh when he was there for the defense ministers meet, hugely important. Even the words of Xi Jinping in that bilateral, extremely important, acknowledging the border issue, acknowledging the terror issue is what Aditya Raj Kaul also told us. We also got that from that NDTV question at the Vikram Misri briefing. And therefore, I think from the SCO itself, from the forum of the SCO itself, these key meetings, I think, are going to have a huge impact as far as India's next steps are concerned with both these countries, but also vis-a-vis the United States. I think the big question right now, we can talk about the global south. We can talk about how this troika is in many ways a kind of aligned anti-tyranny front that has formed in Tianjin. But the big question, the big gorilla in the room, one more animal I'm adding to the conversation, is what is Trump going to say? How is India going to react? Let's be very clear about one thing. We've got to be realistic about one thing. The India-US relationship is a deep and wide one. There have been frictions here. There have been breakdowns here. Many people feel that it's going to take years to rebuild trust after the very harsh things that have been said by Trump and his people. But this is a relationship that can't go away. Vishnu?
No, I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to be on pause until Trump goes. This is Trump's second term. He's not going to be president after this, unless, of course, he decides to be president after this, which would be quite interesting. But can I just say that, when one talks about terrorism, why is the reference from Xi particularly important? Because whose nationals are being killed in Pakistan? It's Chinese nationals. There has been protests in Balochistan on what China has been doing as far as their economic initiatives, their Belt and Road initiatives cutting across Pakistan, their economic corridors, and Chinese nationals have been killed. And therefore, China is a party when it comes to attacks on its nationals in Pakistan, by people who are not aligned to China at all. So that being the case, China certainly should perhaps consider a stronger statement.
And that is why in India, Vishnu, people keep talking about this grey in the relationship that we have with China, especially on the issue of terrorism. Yes, Chinese nationals are also victims of Pakistan-based terror, but at the same time, you had China blocking India's effort to try and get a UN sanction on 5 Pakistani or Pakistan-based terrorists. You also had, and we've spoken about that at length, China giving intelligence to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. So on the one hand, you yourself are victimized by Pakistani terrorists, but yet you don't let them be sanctioned. You veto India's efforts. And that really is the gist of why India perhaps will be looking over its shoulder while we see all of this warmth.
I do believe that what's going to come out of this in terms of the multilateral setup, Shiv and Padmaja, is a stronger BRICS. And that's something that really works against American interests. Donald Trump has spoken about the US dollar being threatened possibly by another currency. India has said that no, the dollar, as far as India is concerned, remains predominant as an international currency. But then, when it comes to BRICS and the entire conversation around currency, it is something which might emerge once again, but certainly as an economic bloc and a grouping, and one which has a significant say in international matters, I would suggest that America would once again be wary about where BRICS stands.
And if I may just interrupt for a second, if you could just talk about what kind of an impact these images will have on our domestic politics. Remember, again, we are going to head into yet another election season. Post-Operation Sindoor, we've seen a lot of talk about India's surrender. Why did we have a ceasefire again and again? As we speak today, Congress is also concluding its Vote Adhikar Yatra in Bihar. That is believed to be a yatra which will give impetus to their election campaign. So the BJP will want to milk this. All of these images are being put out by the party saying SCO delivers with Xi Jinping, Putin and Prime Minister Modi standing together. The party has commented on the hug between Putin and Prime Minister Modi, saying the warmth, the friendship, because they would want to do away with the kind of rhetoric, or at least try and counter the rhetoric we've seen so far, that India right now is the weakest that we've seen in the recent past. They've attacked us. The opposition has attacked the government on its relations with China, on its relations with Pakistan, and most importantly, on his relations with Donald Trump and America.
I think you're right when you say the BJP tends to milk these photo ops and things like this, especially when the Prime Minister is abroad. That is the nature of politics, and the Prime Minister is the big brand ambassador, not just of the country, but also the party. But I also have to say that I think the opposition has been completely devoid of any imagination in its critique of what's happening here. And Vishnu and I, when we were talking yesterday, we acknowledged that there is no shortage of subject matter for criticism when it comes to India's foreign policy. There are real issues to criticize. But what does the opposition, latch on to? Where is the justice for Galwan martyrs?
Where is the dialogue?
Economy is dead.
Do they want India to have a war with China?
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I have strong views on this, and I'm going to say it. The opposition has completely failed to trigger anyone's imagination when it comes to questioning the government as far as foreign policy is concerned. They've talked about hot button issues, hoping to play to the gallery and trigger people's emotions. People have moved on from that because I think India has made it very clear that we are not a country of war. We are not a country that initiates conflict. We are actually a country that wants a little peace. And I'm left wondering, and I'm going to get into trouble for saying this, Vishnu and Padmaja, but right now, sitting here in the NDTV studio, I'm actually wondering which party or which politician is going to be the first to latch on to the Brahmin comment from Pete Navarro. I think there are probably meetings going on in party headquarters right now. Who will pick it up and say, "Dekha, we told you there are caste issues
but you
in
see,
India."
here's what Padmaja really.
That's how easy we are to divide.
Here's what I feel strongly about. The last several weeks, to me, have been among the strongest as far as Narendra Modi and the Indian foreign policy establishment's reactions are concerned. And what has their reaction been? It has been muted at best, because they realize that the rhetoric coming out of Navarro and Trump is not stuff they want to get into knee-jerk reactions on. So what is Modi doing? He's apparently told Trump off when Trump said that, I ended Op Sindoor. Modi apparently said, no, you did no such thing. The relationship perhaps went sour after that. India has said that America is being, there are double standards as far as what America is concerned when it comes to their own imports. But then you've kept quiet by and large. And you've gotten about the business of foreign policy by going to Japan, which is another huge strategic partner, which has problems now on tariffs with America as well, going to China, all of what is happening over here, and just getting the job done, right? It's not a tutu meme happening. All of that rhetoric is coming from America.
And
this is a strong time for Indian foreign policy. Why isn't the opposition talking about it?
And it's almost as if America wanted that to happen, for India to react violently, for there to be some kind of public slanging match between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi. And instead, you've had India going about its business, Prime Minister going to Japan, now the SCO meet in China. And, we spoke earlier of how a lot of things that are happening domestically, politically in India, are being picked up by the American establishment. And it's not just this entire Brahmin Maharaja comment. The other point that the opposition had raised again was this whole suit boot ki sarkar. Remember where America started, where they said, there are big businessmen in India who are making profits by taking oil from China. So you had that whole suit boot ki sarkar narrative. Then you went into the whole Maharaja point. And now you have quickly descended into casteism, invoking the Brahmins who are profiteering at the cost of the rest of the Indians. So it's almost a playbook. It's almost as if America is looking at how our domestic politics is playing out and saying, hey, that's a good point. Next, you will probably have them on the same platform in the Vote Adhikar Yatra, and they'll say vote chori is happening.
It is so sad. I've been a strong votary of the India-US strategic relationship 25 years ago, when we were getting around to the first stages of military exercises with America.
Post-Kargil, yeah.
There was so much that America was actually saying, oh, India just doesn't trust us. We're trying so hard, this, that, the other. And slowly, through foundational agreements, they actually went to this level where you've got data sharing between American platforms and Indian platforms, extremely sophisticated American weaponry here on Indian soil, intelligence sharing on a real-time basis, incredible opportunities for American business in India. We had a defense summit. You've got Boeing in India, Lockheed Martin in India, General Electric in India, doing business in India for the American market. How does America not benefit from it?
Okay,
You've got orders of more than 100 jet engines coming in, and yet you've chosen to take all of that and throw it away.
Okay, now we've got a political leader, Congress leader, saying for a long time India has been accusing China of its double standards and double speak on terrorism. Now Prime Minister Modi tells President Xi that India and China are both victims of terrorism. If this is not the so-called elephant capitulating before the so-called dragon, then what is? The self-proclaimed 56-inch chested leader now stands thoroughly exposed.
Who said
he
this?
betrayed national interest.
Do we know
that is what is being said by leaders of the Congress right now. And
that's a Jairam Ramesh tweet, is it?
yeah, that's right. So that is the nature of politics we have. It's almost like Professor Swaran saying
it's a knee-jerk reaction.
it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. When you had a chill, that was capitulating before China. Now when you have some kind of thaw, that also is capitulating. But seriously speaking, when saying that both India and China are victims of terrorism, do you think that India has capitulated in saying that?
Professor Singh,
I
go ahead,
think
yeah.
in that sense, okay, thank you. I think it looks like the Indian side has focused much more on border and bilateral. And therefore, I think we will see mention in Tianjin declaration of issue of terrorism without naming Pakistan. And in return, I think President Xi Jinping is trying to create SEO as anchor for global stability and present it as an alternative under the leadership of China. So his language was India-China being ancient civilizations and we need to work together to ensure global stability, whereas Indian Prime Minister was focusing on trust being the source of border management, terrorism being our bilateral problem, and we need to work together to solve it. So that kind of give and take, I think, is already visible, and we will see terrorism definitely mentioned in Tianjin declaration. But it, as I said, will not mention Pakistan. It will not maybe spend several paragraphs. As sometimes earlier SCO summit meetings have addressed terrorism in a greater detail. This may not see as much detail this time.
Right.
But I think the whole focus that the host country has is to project SCO as an alternative kind of platform for ensuring global stability, because all 14 dialogue partners and 10 members are facing Trump's tariffs, whether it is Iran, Kazakhstan, India, Russia. So they all have this common concern about global stability in terms of sort of
Sure.
international trade. China is world's largest trading country. So they are, as a host, trying to push it in that direction.
Professor Singh, just give me a second. And Shiv and Padmaja, I've just gone through this Jairam Ramesh tweet. And with all due respect to Mr. Ramesh, to cherry pick points, to score, to cherry pick points and score political points on foreign policy is something that it hardly merits this. What would the Congress party or any other party want India to go to war with China? Do we not? And in fact, this is what the foreign ministers also said. What do you expect us to do? Go to war with China? Is there a lack of understanding about the nature of the threat militarily that India faces from China? No, there isn't. But does that mean you cease being pragmatic? Is there not something to be said about looking at the scenario around you, look at the changed nature of the relationship with the United States? So what is the point about saying that this is a day of infamy and cowardly kowtowing in Tianjin? What would you do?
I think
you wouldn't have economic ties with China, despite the fact that you have economic ties with China, whether you like it or not.
I think this is the Congress party, trying to do a Sharmel Sheikh.
But how would
the Modi government?
A maximalist position on India and China help India?
But the Congress has painted itself into a corner. Let's be very clear. I think the Congress realizes that there is no benefit politically to it to take a nuanced position as far as foreign policy is concerned. As long as it takes some kind of an extreme position, however hypocritical, unreasonable, unfactual it may be, and all of those things actually apply to what Jairam Ramesh's tweet really is at this point of time. I think they see no benefit really in terms of sheer domestic political mileage, as Padmaja was saying, in taking a nuanced
The
view.
Indian
Who's gonna
army
listen
isn't
to a
exactly
nuanced view
withdrawing.
right now from the
We will maintain our defenses. We will build our defenses. We have a million things to do.
No, but Vishnu-
then to say that, just stop, don't talk, you are kowtowing over there, you have followed, what is the point
But
in
Vishnu,
saying that?
here's the
What
thing.
does that
There
achieve?
has never been nuance, whether it be the issue of Operation Sindoor and Donald Trump saying
Or
that I
Galwan.
mediated the ceasefire. Remember what they said in Parliament, the Congress demanded that the Prime Minister should stand inside the Lok Sabha and call Trump a liar in as many words. What do you make of that position? And that's exactly the position that's reflected now in their comments about China.
Look, the
Essentially, you're
Chinese
saying
military threat
we
is
don't want
not
to talk
going
to China.
away. Nobody is in doubt about that. What is being attempted over here is not sort of putting that aside and hiding and saying, oh, we are all friendly with China. It's being smart about how you do
100%.
and go about the business of
No, and also,
international relations.
may I just add, and Gauri Dwivedi joins us live from Tianjin in just a moment. Before I go to her, I just want to say, look at this other picture that's just been put out by the government of the Prime Minister with the two leaders. Very, very, nice frame that's just been put out. I like the fact that you've got the Tiranga right before.
It's almost
right
like they're lined
behind,
up.
Prime Minister Modi, and I wonder what he's actually saying with his finger raised that way, but also part of that conversation. Gauri, amazing images coming in from where you are right now. One picture after the other, the bonhomie, the three of them, talking together. We've been sitting here and trying to figure what the three of them have been talking about. What's the general buzz there about these three?
There is a lot of buzz and excitement ever since those images came out right behind me in that big screen that we are watching. And trust me, every journalist, every outlet that is here in this huge complex has come back and asked us only one thing. What do you think of the Prime Minister Modi's presence here? And what do you think will be India's stand, India's position? So essentially, this year's SCO has been all about India's stance, India's position, and India's message. And that message is going to be on three different fronts. Of course, on security, on cross-border terror that you've been talking about. Second, on trade and connectivity. Now, SCO started as an organization with security as its undercurrent and tying it together. But it has now increased and expanded its scope to include a lot of connectivity. Eurasia connectivity is something that's also very important for India as well. We've been making great efforts in terms of that, parallelly in our corridors, IMEC and several others. So connectivity is something, another very important aspect of what's likely to come up here. And India is also going to be speaking about it. And the second and the equally important aspect to it, of course, is Donald Trump. He's not here, but he's pretty much here simply because of the punishing tariffs that he's imposed. Not a single country in that room has not been impacted by the tariff war that Donald Trump has come out. He's on a warpath in terms of an economic warfare against one and all, which is why many are expecting there could be some sort of a messaging that may actually come out collectively, the global South coming out with a message of solidarity as far as the economic bullying that's coming in from Washington.
Okay, I also want to read out what has been reported by Xinhua about remarks made by Xi Jinping at the 25th meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the SCO. He said that China has pledged to provide 2 billion yuan in grant to member states at the SCO within this year. He's also said that member states of SCO should seek common ground while putting aside differences. And I think this is the really operative part of that statement. The SCO, Gauri, has grown into the world's largest regional organization. In a sense, also saying that, look, so far you've had the Western Bloc pretty much saying, we will dictate to the rest of the world. Now you have the SCO saying, we are the largest regional grouping. So, well, sorry, but you won't.
Mm-hmm. So there is a lot in this for China as well, Padmaja. There's a reason why Xi Jinping is wanting these optics as well. This is something that's significant for China to be able to send out a message. And India has been very clear in terms of saying that we are part of organizations and summits, but not a part of groupings. So to that extent, given the political global headwinds that are there right now, it makes prudent diplomacy for India to be here at the summit collectively. But should we be backing China on all its aspirations and roadmap and its messaging to the US? I think that is where we've been very cautious about it. As far as the other very important image that we put out a short while back, the three leaders coming together, Russia, India, China, there's just one thing I want to say. The moment that image flashed on the screen behind us, every single journalist got up and saw that image. That tells you the messaging. They may not be officially together. There is nothing called RRC together in an operational formal front, but everybody understands the message that went out with the leaders coming together, chatting, talking, because that's exactly the message that they need to send out. Show of solidarity and unity. It doesn't need to be a formal organizational setup. It isn't one. But that single message in terms of the global south, and particularly these three leaders coming together, is probably one of the biggest aspects of the SCO where we are here right now in Tianjin.
Gauri, you are an economist by training, and I just want to understand, if we are at SCO, but if you talk about BRICS and the coming together economically of India, China, and Russia, then how does it pose a challenge to the US as an economic bloc?
It's an extremely important question, Vishnu, and I think that really is something that even all the BRIC countries have been talking about, that can they collectively come together and form a united economic front against Donald Trump? Can they trade in their local currencies? Can they start something like a rupee ruble that already is being talked about increasingly? Can there be a possibility of all these countries trading together in their local currencies, take out dollar, not completely eliminate it, but reduce it? Is that a possibility? I'm sure that's a conversation and negotiations that's happening, if not at a formal level, probably in terms of back channel conversations. That's the first thing. Secondly, Russia has come out on record and saying that if these tariffs make the Indian exports difficult in terms of the US in the short term, the Russian market is available and open. Now, if you take these three economies together, you're talking about one of the world's largest export markets in total, domestic markets in total. And that, I think, is extremely significant. And at the SCO level, if you talk about it, well, you're talking about countries which have about 43% of the world's population, 23% of the GDP. If they come together, there is a huge export market that opens up. Of course, we're not talking about non-entities. There are those which have very little to offer in terms of any trade and prospect. But barring the rest, if there is a possibility of an economic front coming together, opening up of export markets amongst each other, I think that could really offer alternate trading avenues. How soon will that happen remains to be seen, but that's a possibility and a potential that I'm sure many would be examining right now.
All right, so just once again, for the benefit of our viewers who are tuning in about what? Half an hour from now, a little bit more than half an hour.
Yes.
46 minutes.
46 minutes. We've got a countdown clock. We'll have President Putin of Russia meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India. This just a couple of hours before the Prime Minister returns to India, flies back. But it's going to be very, very important in as much as India and China have really taken their relationship forward in an attempt to try and stabilize the situation towards ultimately improving it. I do believe that it's this meeting with Putin and Modi, which is going to take place in 46 minutes from now, which is also in many senses very important from a larger geostrategic perspective. India continues to import Russian oil. India is not going to stop doing that. But Shiv, I think a point we haven't discussed at all is the defense trade. I won't use the word trade, the partnership between India and Russia. We've had the National Security Advisor visit there recently. There's talk about the S-500 surface-to-air missile system, a more advanced variant of what we operate, the S-400. We've had a Russian-built frigate, the Tamal, joining the Indian Navy fleet. In fact, the last foreign warship. But there's so much more as well that India and Russia are talking about. And I do believe that that's going to be something that's going to come up. There have been Indian concerns that the pace of production in Russia has been hit because of their war. But clearly, Russia would want India to be involved as we have been in the past.
And it's very ironic, Vishnu, that's a hugely important question because, the strategic defense military trade relationship between India and Russia has been such a strong and sustainable glue between the two countries for so many years. Vishnu and I have traveled to Russia several times in the past together as well. And the defense relationship is in many ways something that's been on autopilot between the two countries. The S-400 has become the the big flashy talking point post Operation Sindoor. Remember, President Putin comes to India in December this year. The S-500 is on the table for something that India and Russia might actually co-produce here in India. And Vishnu and Padmaja and Gauri, the important thing to note here is all of this is happening in a year when something that has been the subtext of every past US president has been articulated by Trump. He has talked explicitly about India buying Russian weapons and how unhappy he is about that. So here you've got the world's most powerful politician lecturing and pretty much scolding India for buying Russian weapons. And India is gamely proceeding not just with hugs and handshakes, but potentially very, very large defense trade deals with Russia, signaling, ironically, in many ways, that you can try what you want to do by lecturing us, being hostile towards us, scolding us and saying, we do not like the fact that you are so non-aligned or the fact that you are close to Russia as well as us. You need to choose. It's us versus them. This is India saying, look, this is who we are. This is what makes Indian foreign policy unique. The fact that we can talk to both sides, the fact that we can talk to Trump and Putin, the fact that we can talk to Putin and Zelensky as we have done this weekend, while the Prime Minister was in Tianjin. And Gauri, that is what is making Trump uncomfortable. This non-aligned business is non-digestible for him.
Non-digestible.
Indeed, and that also explains that there are these premature responses coming in from the Trump administration. Ahead of the summit, ahead of any deliberations, you have a response coming in, and you have that NYT report saying that, Donald Trump is not going to come to Quad. The host has not extended an invitation. Suddenly, member countries are saying they're not going to travel. Likewise, today, you had Peter Navarro again repeating the Maharaja of tariffs claim that he had made earlier. Why? Simply because these are these nervous responses that are coming in from the Trump administration, given the optics that are at play. What you're seeing right now on your screens, that hug diplomacy, so to say, that is there on your screens, that tells you that what lies ahead in terms of the India-Russia bilateral throws up many more opportunities. And let me just tell that, unlike yesterday, when there was a lot of cautious optimism in terms of limited expectations from the India-China bilateral, none of that is there today. There is a lot of expectation in terms of what the roadmap will be for the India-Russia relationship, from trade to defense to, of course, larger messaging. All of that is likely to come up today. And Donald Trump, and along with him, the entire administration realizes that you can't talk down to New Delhi, come up with those most undiplomatic phrases and expect that we're going to, follow the lines like some of the other world leaders being schooled like, school children, and with Donald Trump acting as the principal. We've seen those images, haven't we? None of that is happening here, and which is why there is a lot of expectation from this bilateral that will start in just about 40 minutes from now. You've spoken about
that is
defense.
something that even
One
experts, and
terrorism.
not just in India, but the US as well, have pointed out that contrary to the popular perception that is being perpetuated here in India for entirely political reasons, Aditya, it's been said again that Indian government has surrendered to various forces. India actually did the exact opposite, and that's the reason why Donald Trump is so peeved. He simply cannot get how India could stand up and tell him off. India simply refuses to capitulate to their trade, that the conditions they set for the trade deal on the issue of Russia, on the issue of Sindoor. Aditya.
Padmaja, Russia is just an excuse. It's the ego of Donald Trump that is hurt, really. We've been covering this ad nauseum every passing day. But White House is upset. Donald Trump is upset because during the so-called ceasefire, which Trump arrived at, we did not give him the so-called credit that he really deserved. And he's running for that Nobel Peace Prize. Nobody knows whether he's even inching closer to that. But the reality of the matter is that diplomacy functions in a different way. Diplomacy, as I have been saying, is not instant noodles. So it takes time. And Trump needs to realize that those times are over when you can bully India into subjugation. You can use your theatrics and rhetoric and pressure tactics to yield results in such a manner as American foreign policy really wants. But that is not going to happen. India has stood its ground. Padmaja, like you were pointing out, there is this narrative going on in India in a certain minority section that Prime Minister Modi or the Indian government has surrendered. To the contrary, the reality of the matter is that Modi has stood his ground and said that we will engage in trade with Russia. Jaishankar repeatedly, not just in India, but traveling to Europe constantly in the last 3 years, has said that when Europe can engage in earth-shattering levels of trade with Russia, even through the war, even through the bloodshed, even through when hospitals and schools were being attacked in Ukraine, then why can't India think of its national interests? And India will certainly do that. There might be a new international order. There might be, in this multipolar world, different stances being taken by different countries. But India, from the very beginning, has said that this is not an era of war. We believe
And a
in
quick
dialogue and
reminder
diplomacy,
that
and that's what we will
court
see
in
here
the
at SCO.
US has ruled that all of Trump's tariffs are illegal. Donald Trump has now reacted to that, saying more than $15 trillion will be invested in the USA, a record in all caps. And much of this investment is because of tariffs. If a radical left court is allowed to terminate these tariffs, almost all of this investment and much more will be immediately cancelled. In many ways, we would become a third world nation with no hope of greatness again.
We know about Trump's relationship with courts. So
Can I just bring in Aditya on another important point? Ukraine, how is that likely to come up between Modi and Putin?
Well, Vishnu, I didn't get your question exactly, but what I can tell you is that the plenary is underway right now, and of course, Prime Minister has spoken. In a few minutes from now, we will get the exact text of what Prime Minister exactly has said. The salient
No, Aditya,
features
I'm asking you about the bilateral between Putin and Modi, right? When that happens, how will Ukraine likely come up?
Yes, of course. That's the big question right now. But in a few minutes, that bilateral will happen after the plenary really ends. We are expecting that meeting can also take longer than an hour because there are quite a few issues, Vishnu and Shiv, that are going to be discussed. Ukraine predominantly will be discussed. Trump tariffs would be discussed. The trade ties and the defense ties between Moscow and New Delhi would be discussed threadbare, perhaps to be taken to another level as well. You heard 36 hours ago Zelensky making that SOS call to Prime Minister Narendra Modi while he was here in China, asking him to convey to Putin that peace ceasefire, a peace agreement is only the way forward. That clearly indicates, Vishnu, also the failure of the foreign policy of the Trump administration that hasn't arrived on any kind of a peace agreement. Even after the Alaska summit, there have been tall promises made by Donald Trump. There are theatrics, there are threats that have been made by Donald Trump. But yet, Putin is perhaps really trying to checkmate Trump and, having his own hegemony in this entire debate. Many are saying that Trump has the cards, but in reality, it does seem out and open that Putin has the cards. Putin is playing this long game right now. It's not the Donald Trump administration.
All right.
37 minutes to go for the Modi-Putin bilateral. There's no shortage of subject matter on the table between Modi and Putin, but it is prefaced by these incredible images, Aditya, of the three, the three leaders of these three giant nations, India, Russia, and China. It's tempting to look at it as a big flex, an anti-tyranny front, an anti-tariff front because of the new alignment between them. We've seen pictures from 2018 of these three same leaders going viral all over again, Aditya, but they've done it again. They're standing together, they're smiling, they're laughing. We'll never know what they're talking about. Only they and their interpreters actually know. And if they had to tell you, they'd have to kill you. But I'm just wondering whether they were discussing Trump. I really want to know whether these three guys were discussing Trump. Aditya, what do you think? What's the buzz over there? What were the three talking about?
Well, it does seem that there is something that they are talking about, and it does seem that the biggest issue right now seems to be Donald Trump, the American foreign policy, and the kind of so-called disruption that they are making. And there's one image when, Modi is pointing towards the ground. Yeah. So I don't know what that really means, but clearly it does seem
that's going to become a meme, isn't it, Aditya? That's going to become a meme.
That's how low Trump's popularity is now.
But can I just say,
that's the direction Trump's popularity is headed in.
Can I just suggest, guys, that I don't think they were talking about Trump. I do believe they were talking about everything other than Trump.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Trump is significant in terms of the business that they're looking to get into, whether it's stabilizing the border, it's getting into oil imports, talking about Ukraine. Trump is not on their mind. That might be, there may be reactions in Washington and we'll see if they react to that. But right now, there's work here. Aditya, you were saying something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying the underground gas pipelines, maybe the gas connections and the trade that will continue, perhaps taken to another level between India and Russia. You never know. that Trump wants us to end the oil purchases and the trade, this may actually go to another level. They might announce another deal or so of actually going to places. But reality of the matter is that Modi and Putin are meeting in a bit from now. And the global media's attention, I was speaking to some of the press here from France as well as US who are tracking this meeting very closely, and they really want to understand what Modi will convey to Putin, what they will discuss on Ukraine, and on the trade front, what are the kind of statements that will come out, especially around the Trump tariff. So really, it does seem that there would be some kind of messaging, some kind of narrative that will be set up on the sidelines of the SCO when it comes to Donald Trump. And yes, he would be tuned into the Truth Social for a reaction perhaps in a couple of hours.
And the narrative and the messaging is not just happening from Chinese soil. It is continuously being sent out from within India as well. Remember, it had started with the Prime Minister when just hours after Donald Trump slapped that additional penalty of 25%, he said, I am willing to pay the price, but I will not let India's interests be bartered with America. This was reiterated by the RSS when they held that 3-day lecture series. The RSS chief said, listen, we can have business, but it has to be done on an equal footing. No one can be treated as an inferior, or be subjugated by another power. And today we've had the agriculture minister, and this is also very, very significant. Our viewers need to know this, because one of the main sticking points between India and US on the trade deal is that India is not willing to open up its agriculture to America. They are not happy to have GM crops come in. Remember, the RSS also has a considerable base among farmers, among small traders, and this has been a huge issue, a huge concern for India. So you had the agriculture minister today say, listen, some big boss sitting on foreign soil cannot dictate terms to us. For us, it's always going to be India first. Let's quickly listen in to what Shehbaz Singh Chauhan, the agriculture minister, said.
आज हम देख रहे हैं, आज भी प्रधानमंत्री चीन में, उसके पहले जापान में थे। भारत का सम्मान कितना बढ़ा है। अब दुनिया का कोई दादा ये ना सोचे कि भारत को आंख दिखा दी तो वो झुक जाएगा। आज का भारत आंखों में आंख डाल के बात करता है। कोई भी समझौता कैसे करते हैं? राष्ट्र सर्वोपरि, भारत के हित सर्वोपरि हमारे लिए। और मैं आज एक नागरिक के नाते प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी को बधाई देना चाहता हूं, अभिनंदन करना चाहता हूं। जब हमसे ऐसा समझौता करना चाहा, जो हमारे राष्ट्रीय हितों के खिलाफ था, जो हमारे किसानों के खिलाफ था, मछुआरों के खिलाफ था, पशुपालकों के खिलाफ था, तो हमने कह दिया कि ऐसा समझौता नहीं होगा, नहीं होगा, नहीं होगा।
All right, so very, very important remarks by Shehbaz Singh Chauhan over there. It's not new what he's saying, it's the timing which is important. India has made it absolutely clear that when it comes to any trade deal with America, agriculture and dairy are areas which are absolutely no-go. There's plenty to be done and plenty that India was willing to be flexible with. But I think it's what we are seeing in terms of comments from the United States, which has perhaps triggered that response that you just heard over there with the White House.
No, but this also, Vishnu, this also shows...
actually saying what he was saying, making all sorts of disparaging remarks about India, including new comments. It just goes to show that there is political heat building up in India as well in terms of...
And not just heat, but also alignment. This appears to be a very coherent response to what's coming in from the United States, because let's be very clear, in this government, people generally do not speak out of turn. So if Shehbaz Singh Chauhan, the agriculture minister, is making a comment that impinges on foreign relations at a time when the Prime Minister is in China, in the context of what's happening, this is a socha samjha message that India is putting out to the United States.
People are getting impatient with what's happening in America. I think perhaps contrary to what I said a little while earlier on, where India was by and large staying silent, the fact that you've got a very senior minister, an extremely experienced politician who knows exactly what needs to be said and what shouldn't be said, right, and has the larger interest in mind,
Why, Vishnu, also this message is for
it's
our
interesting.
domestic audience, because people need to be reassured in a sense if the opposition's messaging is that India is basically being bullied. It is now pretty much on the mat as far as China, America is concerned. You also have to reassure your voter, your audience, that that is not the case. It needs to be said with clarity. If there are farmers there who are watching the minister or watching the government right now, the trade deal right now is on pause, but what happens next? Will we have GM crops? Will we have, in the dairy sector, America coming in? They need to be reassured that, listen, your prime minister is there. He's going out and having all of these meetings, but your interests are going to be protected. And that is foremost for the Indian establishment, for the Indian government, irrespective of who's in power. I think that messaging is very important, not just for America, but also for the domestic audience. Ashok Sajjanhar, former Indian diplomat, is also joining us live. Sir, big news day we have. And of course, the 4-5 big developments. We have Shehbaz Sharif being ignored there by Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin. We've got the warmth seen in the troika of Xi Jinping, Putin and Prime Minister Modi. But I think the biggest headline of the day, General Soy is also joining us. Thanks very much, sir, for joining us this morning. The big headline undoubtedly is Pete Navarro going off on a bender. He has decided now that there are some unnamed Brahmins in India who are profiteering at the cost of Indians. Who do you think is tutoring him on India's caste system and its involvement with Indian business?
Well, thank you very much, Padmaja. I think whoever is tutoring him is giving him all the wrong information, because he is displaying his ignorance by his comments and the statements that he's making. But, it is really not only frustrating, but also pitiable to see, to the depths to which Peter Navarro personally has sunk. Of course, there are others also who've been making similar comments, like Scott Bessent, and also I think at the beginning it was Marco Rubio also who had got into the act. But, the venom and the poison and, the despicable level that he has descended to, I think that is very unseemly for any senior official. Speak about a foreign country, speak about a foreign leader, and speak about the domestic politics of a foreign country. I think it really doesn't merit beyond a passing rejection of all these statements. But if you permit, Padmaja, I'll like to make just two very short comments on the discussion that you three worthies, Vishnu, you and Shiv have been having. Number one, irrespective of what they are talking, I'm sure the three leaders know exactly that the whole world is riveted to what, these messaging is coming out from. The pictures, as they say, the pictures speak more than 1,000 words. I think they speak more than 100 pages. No amount of Tianjin declaration will be able to erase, or supplement in any way the messaging that this body language, that this chemistry, that this rapport will be sending out to the world capitals, and particularly as far as the United States is concerned. The second is, I think, Shiv, you mentioned that we'll wait for Mr. Trump to put it on his Truth Social. He's not going to do anything of that. Mr. Trump sort of, when he has to beat his chest that he has been able to achieve something, then only he will come on Truth Social and declare that this is what he has done, this is what he's been able to achieve. You would recall that, Sorry?
He has reacted to far less compelling images than these in the past. You're saying he won't react to this?
No, of course. No, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. In my humble opinion, you see, he had this huge telephonic conversation with Prime Minister Modi on the 17th of June. He did not refer to it. It was an important conversation, went on for a long time, because he was the one who really got a rap on the knuckles, telling him that, you had no role to play. So let's wait and see. But I don't think that he is going to be sort of, criticizing whatever he had to say about India's dead economy and so on and so forth. Sure. I think he has had his say. And the last point is
Ambassador, half a second. I just want to go through Pete Navarro's latest remarks for the benefit of our viewers. Just in quick summary, the latest remark is that Brahmins are profiteering from Russian oil. India is the Maharaja of tariffs. Russia got into bed with big oil in India. Indian refiners make a ton of money.
Laundromat.
Oil deal fueling Russian war machine, and India nothing but a laundromat for the Kremlin. General Soy, would you like to respond or take a look at this? This comes from one of India's principal strategic allies.
In fact, I feel they are totally rattled because the kind of immature statements which are coming out of US administration, present administration. One thing, I was in US, I came back about 3 days back. It showed total sycophancy at present, that everybody keeps saying, sir, you are great. It is because of you. Things are happening. It is because you. America is becoming great. We are doing this because of you. So a lot of sycophancy is there. And whatever Trump is doing, everybody is now speaking that language. And this is very, very unfortunate. It is uncalled for a great democracy, big democracy like America, where these kinds of statements come out, which are very, very immature. And I'm sure, on the other hand, see the elegance on our part. We are not named America when we talk of bullying. We are not said that this word is not for bullying and all. So nobody has named any particular country. And on the other hand, these kinds of statements are, and why they are singling out India, that is another angle. And now at present, if you see, they are trying to woo a bit China. They increase the student visas for China. They are talking of deployment of Chinese troops in Ukraine. They are talking of, they have not increased the duties, tariffs on China, the kind of tariffs they have increased on us. Probably they are worried about RIC, Russia, India, China, shifting the global power to the eastern side from the west. And if this happens, though this is just a beginning probably, and what India has shown US, that if one door closes, 10 doors open, whether it is of Japan or our affiliation with other countries.
It has been a very united message, hasn't it? This is an important thing to highlight today, that while the domestic noises have been made, there's a lot of tutu meme going on between the political parties in India. As far as India's national response is concerned to the United States, it's been very, very coherent. You just heard Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Before that, you've had, the Indian Foreign Office has spoken in one voice. You had the Prime Minister talking about never bending to tariff pressure when he was speaking in Gujarat, if I'm not mistaken, earlier as well. You've got the images. Let's put those images back on our screen from Tianjin right now of Modi and Putin, and then the Troika as well. Ambassador Sajanar, the Modi-Putin bilateral begins in just over 20 minutes from now. This is a tried and tested relationship. It comes in a year when it has been specifically under attack by Trump. It was a scheduled meeting. It's not happening in response to Trump's, escalations. But obviously, there is a special quality to this handshake and embrace between Modi and Putin today. What do you think they're going to talk about in today's bilateral, sir? There is no shortage of topics to talk about, thanks to Trump especially. But what is your view on what's going to happen in that room when Modi and Putin meet?
Yeah, I think basically, in my view, it is going to be about bilateral relations in terms of, the strength of our bilateral ties, how they can be sort of, further taken forward in the areas of, whether it is defense or energy and so on and so forth. Not into the nitty-gritty, but into the big picture in terms of going forward. And of course, in terms also of taking the forthcoming visit of President Putin to India, that will be in, it's reported that it might be in December. So, something about the next summit meeting in India that is to take place. Of course, global relations, particularly as far as economic ties and the tariffs on India and the instability in the global world trading order, that definitely will be there. And I think President Putin will debrief Prime Minister Modi about the situation in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. And I'm sure Prime Minister Modi will again plug in for the fact that there should be, an early end. There is unnecessary death, destruction, and dislocation of people and lives of people. Children are being lost. I'm sure that is a pitch that Prime Minister Modi will definitely make in the bilateral talks. I think particularly on Saturday, he's got a call from President Zelensky also in this regard. So I'm sure that will also be taken up. But by and large, I think it's going to be on strengthening bilateral ties. What are the other areas? The huge trade deficit. What is the way forward? I think basically that is what it is going to be.
Between China and India, General Soy, the three main points that were raised by the Indian Prime Minister were trade, cross-border terrorism, and of course, our shared border. When it comes to Russia, what are the main talking points you think will come out of there?
In fact, what I feel is basically what Ambassador Sajjanara just mentioned, the same thing, defense ties, oil, economy, trade, and how can now India contribute in Russia? Like we have already talked of sending skilled and non-skilled people to Russia because Russia needs them for the reconstruction and a lot of places those things are there. Because at present the trade balance is in favor of India as far as Russia is concerned because of it is in favor of Russia because we are importing a lot of oil from Russia, and with our manpower going there, with our exports going up, and Russia has also assured that whatever help they can provide in losses because of an increased tariff because of US, that also some sort of compensation would be there. So this kind of with this kind of relationship, I think the trade, defense, and technology, these two factors would be discussed. Padamjan.
We can go back to Aditya Rajkol, who's with us once again. Aditya, in all of this, it's been a while since we made reference to Shehbaz Sharif, the Pakistani leader, standing sort of in line while Modi and Putin passed him by, not for a moment glancing in his direction. And then, of course, earlier on, there was this video which emerged that, he extended his hand to Putin and extended his hand many times and then was unable to actually get any reciprocity from the Russian leader. So it's not been very good, has it, on Chinese territory for the Pakistani leader?
Well, Vishnu, I had to really scroll on a slow motion video to really see Shehbaz Sharif out there. Otherwise, the world media wouldn't have really noticed him. But clearly, Shehbaz Sharif is in attendance. We have seen him. There is a huge screen right behind me, giving a live footage first from the SCO summit. And that's where Shehbaz Sharif is speaking right now. The Pakistani Prime Minister is, of course, a member of the SCO. 2017, India and Pakistan both were, admitted into the SCO. But the big question right now is about the Modi-Putin meeting that will be happening in a few minutes from now. But these visuals are the center stage of the diplomacy. These visuals on the screen on NDTV are really the focus point of what really is transpiring on the sidelines of the SCO Leaders Summit as well. We are witnessing bonhomie between Prime Minister Modi, President Xi Jinping, and President Putin as well. Especially India and Russia are really trying to, build on their momentum, build on the relationship really, especially at a time when India has stood with Russia continuously, even through this war. Even though India has a neutral approach, it has strategic autonomy. It says that it will do whatever it wants as per the wishes of the people, in the interest of the people and in national interest. But in a few minutes from now, both we'll have the bilateral between Modi and Putin, but we'll also have the SCO joint declaration. So it will be interesting to see the terminology and the wordings in the declaration, especially when it comes to cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan. Would there be a joint condemnation of the SCO members? Will there be some reservation from Pakistan? And at the same time, trade connectivity and how the SCO countries can build on the momentum, especially when many say that this has to be an Asian century. So India and China are going to play a critical role in that. But these visuals of Putin and Modi meeting, the bonhomie, the hug, the embrace, clearly are pointing to the kind of relationship India and Russia have enjoyed for decades together and are building on that momentum to continue to do trade, to continue to do people-to-people contact, Bollywood films and songs being loved in Russia for decades together. And even now, there is an instance where an Air India flight got stuck in one of the remote areas in Russia. Locals came out to support and meet the Indians out there. That is the kind of love and bonhomie is for Indians across Russia. And that continues even through this war. So Modi and Putin bonhomie being witnessed. And in a few minutes from now, we will have the Prime Minister meeting the Russian President Putin, and we will get you the latest on that.
All right, we expect to get some more details of what Prime Minister Modi did say, but it's almost half past the hour. It is half past the hour, 9:30 a.m. in the morning, 14 minutes from now, that all-important bilateral is going to happen.
उज्बेकिस्तान का इंडिपेंडेंस डे है। कल उज्बेकिस्तान का इंडिपेंडेंस डे है। कल किर्गिस्तान का राष्ट्रीय दिवस था। इस अवसर पर मैं दोनों लीडर्स को बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। एक्सेलेंसी, पिछले 24 वर्षों में एससीओ का पूरे यूरेशिया क्षेत्र की एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली को जोड़ने में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण योगदान रहा। भारत ने एक सक्रिय सदस्य के रूप में हमेशा कंस्ट्रक्टिव और सकारात्मक भूमिका निभाई है। एससीओ को लेकर भारत की सोच और नीति 3 मुख्य स्तंभों पर आधारित है। एससीओ, एस सिक्योरिटी, सी कनेक्टिविटी, ओ अपॉर्चुनिटी। पहले स्तंभ एस यानी सिक्योरिटी के संदर्भ में मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि सुरक्षा, शांति और स्थिरता किसी भी देश के विकास का आधार है। किंतु इस मार्ग में आतंकवाद, अलगाववाद और अतिवाद बड़ी चुनौतियां हैं। आतंकवाद सिर्फ किसी देश की सुरक्षा ही नहीं, बल्कि पूरी मानवता के लिए एक साझा चुनौती है। कोई देश, कोई समाज, कोई नागरिक अपने आप को इससे सुरक्षित नहीं समझ सकता। इसलिए आतंकवाद से लड़ाई में भारत ने एकजुटता पर बल दिया। इसमें एससीओ रेट्स की बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही। इस वर्ष भारत ने जॉइंट इंफॉर्मेशन ऑपरेशन को लीड करते हुए अल कायदा और इससे जुड़े आतंकी संगठनों से लड़ने का इनिशिएटिव किया। हमने रेडिकलाइजेशन के विरुद्ध समन्वय बढ़ाने और मिलकर कदम उठाने का भी प्रस्ताव रखा। टेरर फाइनेंसिंग के खिलाफ आवाज उठाई। इसमें मेरे समर्थन के लिए मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत पिछले 4 दशकों से निर्मम आतंकवाद का दंश झेल रहा है। कितनी ही माताओं ने अपने बच्चे खोए और कितने बच्चे अनाथ हो गए। हाल ही में हमने पहलगाम में टेररिज्म का बहुत ही घिनौना रूप देखा। इस दुख की घड़ी में जो मित्र देश हमारे साथ खड़े रहे, मैं उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। यह हमला केवल भारत की अंतरात्मा पर ही आघात नहीं था, यह मानवता में विश्वास रखने वाले हर देश, हर व्यक्ति को खुली चुनौती थी। ऐसे में प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है, क्या कुछ देशों द्वारा आतंकवाद का खुलेआम समर्थन हमें स्वीकार्य हो सकता है। एक्सेलेंसी, हमें स्पष्ट रूप से और एक स्वर में कहना होगा कि आतंकवाद पर कोई भी डबल स्टैंडर्ड स्वीकार्य नहीं होंगे। हमें मिलकर आतंकवाद का हर रंग में, हर रूप में विरोध करना होगा। ये मानवता के प्रति हमारा दायित्व है। एक्सेलेंसी, अब मैं दूसरे स्तंभ सी यानी कनेक्टिविटी पर अपने विचार रखना चाहूंगा। भारत का हमेशा से मत रहा है कि मजबूत कनेक्टिविटी से केवल व्यापार ही नहीं बल्कि विश्वास और विकास के द्वार भी खुलते हैं। इसी सोच के साथ हम चाबहार पोर्ट और इंटरनेशनल नॉर्थ साउथ ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉरिडोर जैसे इनिशिएटिव पर काम कर रहे हैं। इनसे हम अफगानिस्तान और मध्य एशिया के साथ संपर्क बढ़ा सकते हैं। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी के हर प्रयास में संप्रभुता और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता का सम्मान होना चाहिए। यही एचसीओ चार्टर के मूल सिद्धांतों में भी विदित है। कनेक्टिविटी दैट bypasses sovereignty, losing trust and dignity. एक्सेलेंसी, तीसरा स्तंभ है ओ यानी अपॉर्चुनिटी। अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर कोऑपरेशन एंड रिफॉर्म। 2023 में भारत की अध्यक्षता के दौरान नई ऊर्जा और विचारों का संचार हुआ। स्टार्टअप और इनोवेशन, ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन, यूथ एम्पावरमेंट, डिजिटल इंक्लूजन और शेयर बुद्धिस्ट हेरिटेज जैसे नए विषयों को अपने सहयोग में जोड़ा। हमारा प्रयास था कि एचसीओ को सरकारों के परे भी ले जाए। सामान्य मानवी, यंग साइंटिस्ट, स्कॉलर्स और स्टार्टअप को भी आपस में जोड़े। हमारे पीपल टू पीपल टाइम को दृढ़ता देने के लिए मैं आज एक और सुझाव रखना चाहूंगा। एचसीओ के अंतर्गत एक सिविलाइजेशन डायलॉग फोरम बनाया जाए। इससे हम अपनी प्राचीन सभ्यताओं, कला, साहित्य और परंपराओं को वैश्विक मंच पर साझा कर सकते हैं। एक्सेलेंसी, आज भारत रिफॉर्म, परफॉर्म, ट्रांसफॉर्म के मूल मंत्र पर आगे बढ़ रहा है। कोविड हो या वैश्विक आर्थिक अस्थिरता, हमने हर चुनौती को अवसर में बदलने का प्रयास किया। हम लगातार वाइड रेंजिंग रिफॉर्म पर काम कर रहे हैं। इसे देश में विकास के साथ साथ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सहयोग के लिए भी नए अवसर खुल रहे हैं। मैं आप सभी को भारत की विकास यात्रा से जुड़ने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। एक्सेलेंसी, यह खुशी की बात है कि एचसीओ भी समय के अनुरूप इवॉल्व हो रहा है। ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम, ड्रग ट्रैफिकिंग और साइबर सिक्योरिटी जैसे समकालीन चुनौतियों से निपटने के लिए 4 नए केंद्र बनाए जा रहे हैं। हम इस रिफॉर्म ओरिएंटेड माइंडसेट का स्वागत करते हैं। वैश्विक संस्थानों में रिफॉर्म के लिए एचसीओ सदस्य आपसी सहयोग बढ़ा सकते हैं। संयुक्त राष्ट्र की 80वीं वर्षगांठ के अवसर पर हम एकमत होकर यूएन रिफॉर्म का आह्वान कर सकते हैं। ग्लोबल साउथ की आकांक्षाओं को आउटडेटेड फ्रेमवर्क में कैद रखना भावी पीढ़ियों के प्रति घोर अन्याय है। नई पीढ़ी के बहुरंगी सपनों को हम पुराने जमाने की ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट स्क्रीन पर नहीं दिखा सकते। स्क्रीन बदलनी ही होगी। एचसीओ मल्टीलेटरलिज्म और इंक्लूसिव वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर का मार्गदर्शक बन सकता है। मुझे खुशी है कि इस महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर आज एक स्टेटमेंट जारी किया जा रहा है। एक्सेलेंसी, हम सभी पार्टनर्स के साथ समन्वय और सहयोग के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। मैं एचसीओ के अगले अध्यक्ष किर्गिस्तान के राष्ट्रपति और मेरे मित्र प्रेसिडेंट जपारोव को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Right, the Prime Minister there talking about and making critical points at the SCO summit. I'm going to go through a couple of them. Terrorism is a joint challenge for humanity. The Prime Minister specifically referring to terrorism. He spent several minutes talking about this. He's named the Al-Qaeda. He spoke about the face of terrorism in Pahalgam. He spoke about how terrorism is a big challenge, not just for India, but the rest of the world. To me, one of his most important remarks was that there must not be double standards in the fight against terrorism. All terrorism must be fought and opposed. He spoke specifically about terror financing. This has been one of India's biggest concerns and central to our fight at the international level against terrorism. He says that India has had 4 decades of terrorism. We've suffered the loss of lives. He referred to Pahalgam. He's thanked friendly nations who have come out in support of India after the Pahalgam attack.